these Volantex 400mm warplanes. They're also made by SonikRC and Rage. They're all essentially the same thing. Now in this video I'm going to cover a gearbox problem that one of these planes have. It's this one. It makes a slight click noise as it slows down, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. Now this is the damaged gearbox. It happened during a high-speed crash into the ground. The aircraft survived, the prop come off. Sometimes though you end up with this little click sound. Let me demonstrate that. So I'm going to run it up, and then as it slows down you'll hear the click. It's da-da-da-da-da-da. And in fact if you turn that prop, sometimes you can feel where it catches on the gearbox. Let's do it again, and then I'll run the other plane which doesn't have the problem, and you'll hear the difference. So listen for that click. Definitely a noisy motor there, but it's not the motor, it's the gearbox. So we'll open it up. You have to be really careful with this, do it as carefully as possible and try not to damage the model. There is the gearbox, and the motor fits in there, and the metal gear on the motor connects with this plastic gear. There's some little C-clips, I think they are, there and there. Sometimes they come out and end up and they shouldn't be, so you might need to replace the gearbox if that happens. Also notice on the shaft of the gearbox there is a flat side. Now that lines up with the prop saver. These are the prop savers here. They slot onto the gearbox shaft, and they've got a flat on the inside which marries up with the flat on this shaft. So make sure you get them lined up when you put the prop savers on. That way it will slide on fully, otherwise it protrudes a millimetre or two and it won't quite sit properly. The spinner won't sit properly on the fuselage. It'll still fly though. Now on the underside of some models you can actually get into some access panels for the servos and the electronic board, and also the motor and gearbox here. Now I'm going to take this off, but it's not large enough to get the gearbox out. So just pull it up like that, the flat screwdriver, and that comes away nicely. This piece of foam actually is good to put spots of glue or paint on the underneath, just to make sure that your glue or paint doesn't interact poorly with the foam if you're ever going to repaint or glue these models. So you use the inside surface there just to trial it. Now there is the gearbox with the gold motor. Installed a couple of screws there. Now we need to undo those screws to get the motor out, and then we can replace the gearbox. But first I've got to cut through very carefully this part of the foam because it's glued together, these two halves of the fuselage. So we take the prop off and do that. I'm using a brand new blade on this craft knife to create as clean a cut as possible. Make sure, of course, that you don't cut through any wires. should be able to see those. There aren't normally any wires here anyway. Now, I reckon I might have to touch up the paint. I do have some silver and red paint. This aircraft has already had some red paint touched up on the front anyhow. Carefully do this part. Go really carefully. There are a couple of parts of the gearbox that are glued to the foam, so I'm going to have to pull it apart. Right, got the whole lot out. Now, hopefully, when I glue that back together and touch that with paint, that'll still look okay. The point is though, this has got to be fixed. Now, I want to see if I can see why. It's tight there, it's tight right there. Now, rather interestingly, when I rotate this gearbox, I can feel where it catches on the gears. So if I rotate this white gear around another quarter turn and shine a light on it, I can actually see a little piece of metal, it looks like brass colour, caught in the gears there. And that, I think, is causing the issue. Now I'll try and show you that. Don't know if I'll be able to get the angle right on the camera. Yeah, I think I can. See that little piece of metal there? That is creating the issue. Such a tiny little thing. I reckon if I clean that out, I actually won't have to replace the gearbox because the shaft isn't bent or anything. And sure enough, you can hear that click sound. It's gone. There it is. Now, does it run smoothly? Yes, it does. So that's cured it. While I'm here, there's some dirt in those gears, so I'm just going to clean those. Something else I'm going to use is an air duster. Just blow some air in there. Give it another run. So the sort of glue I use is Yoo-hoo. This is a contact adhesive, but always try a little bit of glue on a component where it doesn't show if it melts the foam or anything. So if you're using paint or glue, do that. I know Yoo-hoo is okay, so I'm just going to put some glue around the engine components where it was glued before. Okay, pretty good. This is a contact adhesive, so put a bit on each side and just leave it to dry for a few moments and push it together. Here you go. Incidentally, when using sharp blades, if you're a child, get an adult to do that, right, because these blades are extremely sharp. Push in the inspection hatch. Okay, so some touching up to do with the paint, and we'll see how it looks. I use acrylic paints for this. I didn't have to cut the top edge, so that remains very clean. That feels very nice, very smooth. Absolutely perfect. So I've just got to fix the paint now. Now I have found the gearbox online. There's a couple of sellers that sell the gearbox. So just make sure you got the one that suits your aircraft. This particular one says it's for the Mustang, the Corsair, the P47 and also the Messerschmitt and the Spitfire. These are the paints I use for my Mustang. I've got Citadel Red Layer Evil Sun Scarlet and Silver Steel Vallejo Paint 71.065. Now they're acrylic paints. Just use a colour that matches obviously your model. There we are, all painted up, just touched up really. I just stipple the brush paint on the upper surface, didn't need to get cut, so that still looks really nice. There we have the Mustang all in place, all pieced together again, and the prop that doesn't make a noise anymore. Sounds like new. Now this Spitfire has got a problem with the gearing. I don't know if you can hear that. There's a few issues there in that gear, so I do need to get to that plastic gear and clean it out. I'm in the end going to have to remove it from the model again. There we are. And the model is starting to show signs of stress there on the foam. So separating it is very tricky, very difficult. Now I'm turning the gear. I can feel it grinding there and there. Can't see anything obviously on the white wheel. It's really hard to see, but there is another little gold piece of metal caught in that gear there, and that is definitely causing an issue. Yeah, got it out. So now I'm going to remove the motor from the gearbox and have a good look at those gears separately. That allows you to remove this cover, and now the motor should pull out. It's quite a tight fit, I think. And there we are. And give everything a good clean up. It does seem much improved. I'm just putting some oil on the gears. This is GT85. That's the GT85 oil I used. I've put the motor back in. I'm just gluing it together with U-Hoo, and I'll put that piece in again. Inspection hatch. It is a little creased around here where I pulled it apart, but it has improved the gearbox, so it's swings and roundabouts, isn't it? It sort of flew okay as it was, but now I've improved the motor and the running, but I've slightly creased the foam. No more grinding, that sounds nice. There's the prop. Sounds perfect. So it's fixed it mechanically. The only downside is a few little creases underneath. And the upper fuselage is fine. So yeah, if you want to stop your model from making that grinding noise, you can fix it. You might have to suffer a little damage under there. Perhaps you'll get away with it, perhaps you'll do it any to job than me. But nevertheless, it's not too untidy, it's not too horrible. I can live with that.